She was born into the world just 6 months ago, and already little Lima's life is in danger. She's suffering from a major cause of death and disability in the developing world, meningitis.
Children are dying needlessly due to the infection of these bacteria. We need to stop it now.
Although they don't know it, 1 in 9 children in this Bangladeshi suburb could be carrying the lethal bug that has been passed on to Lima. The bacterium Haemophilus influenza type B, or Hib, is a killer, especially in children under 5 across the developing world. The World Health Organization estimates that it takes over 400,000 lives worldwide every year.
We must now do all that we can to eliminate this killer bacterium.
On the wards of the Dhaka Shishu Children's Hospital in the Bangladeshi capital, Dr. Rahul Amin sees the fight against meningitis by children like Lima every day.
She came to this hospital with the history of fever and convulsion and followed by unconsciousness. Now you can see that this child is still very sick and she has developed some sequelae like disability. You know, these upper limbs, these are stiff, you know, and also the lower limbs, these are stiff. So pointing to that she will be developing disability, and in course of time she might need a wheelchair for her movement.
Dr. Amin suspects that Lima's meningitis has been caused by Hib, a dangerous bacterium that lurks in the nose and the throat, but can be spread innocently and easily from child to child through sneezing, coughing, and almost any close contact. Its full name, Haemophilus influenza type B, suggests it's a type of flu, but it isn't. All too often, this bacterial infection is mistaken for other illnesses, even by doctors, and with potentially fatal consequences for its victims. It attacks suddenly, spreading into the lungs and infecting the blood, causing pneumonia or meningitis. For Lima's mother, her daughter's illness was a complete shock.
It started 22 days ago. The baby had fever, and then on the 4th day, the baby started having fits, and I brought her to hospital. She was not moving her arms or her legs. She was not looking at anything. She was looking blank.
These organisms, they attack Lima and they have traveled through blood to the brain and caused meningitis.
I don't know what to do. I hope the doctor will do something. By the blessing of God, I hope the baby will be okay.
A sample of Lima's spinal fluid has been taken to the hospital's microbiology lab to screen it for Hib bacteria. After culturing the bacteria from the sample overnight, Dr. Shamir Shahar has been looking at Lima's results in the lab.
So the bacteria which grew from the spinal fluid of Lima, I'm now trying to agglutinate it with the specific antisera for Hib. And you can see the clear clumping of the bacteria which has grown from Lima's spinal fluid. And that indicates that it was a case of Hib and she is having meningitis due to Hib.
Dr. Shahar's team have been working to discover the true extent of Hib across the country.
The situation with Hib in Bangladesh is really very great because 50% of the all meningitis cases who are coming to this hospital are due to the Hib. And second, we found that 30% of the severe pneumonia cases are due to Hib.
The Dhaka Shishu is one of the very few hospitals in Bangladesh with a laboratory actively investigating and looking for the life-threatening Hib bacteria. Most of the time, this killer goes undetected.
Identification of Hib or detection of Hib is difficult because it is a fragile organism and it needs resources to culture this organism. Most of the labs in the country are not having the resources to culture this organism, and that's the reason the overall Hib burden in the country remaining underestimated.
Little Lima has been put on antibiotics, but her lab result reveals something else.
So after isolation of Hib from Lima's case, we tested it by a quick test which indicates that it is resistant to first line of antibiotic. So we have to go for second line, more powerful and expensive antibiotic to treat this Hib meningitis case.
And it's not just Lima. Similar results are being found right across Bangladesh.
So in the recent years, we are encountering more and more drug-resistant strains, and they are mainly resistant to the antibiotic which are readily available in the hospital and which is cheaper. And so pediatricians are facing the challenge to treat these cases because they need to use the most expensive drugs which are not readily available in the hospital, and that's why treatment is delayed. And this delay in treatment is leading to the more disability and more death.
At the Dhaka Shishu, fee-paying patients subsidise those who cannot afford the cost of their treatment. Luckily for Lima, her effective but more expensive antibiotics are being paid for by the hospital. But other victims across Bangladesh are not so lucky. For her mother, on a meagre income of a few dollars a week, it's a struggle to feed her child, let alone pay for her health care.
I'll have to be a beggar. I'll have to beg for my child.
But Hib infection knows no class boundaries. Upstairs in the fee-paying section of the hospital, Dr. Armin attends another young life blighted by meningitis. 18-month-old Samin was rushed into the hospital 2 weeks ago.
You can see that his right half of the body is not moving like the left half, because right upper limb, right lower limb is paralyzed, and also the right half of the face. He may have paralysis of the right half of the body throughout his life.
Samin's story is all too common. Misdiagnosis by the first doctor to see him.
The doctor said it may be viral fever and maybe take 3 days to get better. So he gave me some mild painkillers. If the diagnosis could have been made earlier, then I could have saved my son from paralysis.
Antibiotics have now cleared the Hib infection, but the original misdiagnosis will affect Samin for the rest of his life. Among the world's poor, this disease is frequently misdiagnosed and the threat underestimated. "30 kilometers away from the capital, in the district of Narayangani, Fatima Unjana fetches water for her family. Her baby daughter Shuli suffered from meningitis caused by Hib.
Shuli was first sick at the age of 6 months. We went to the doctor. She was gradually becoming less and less conscious, so we took her to the hospital.
After a course of antibiotics and 6 weeks in hospital, Shuli didn't improve. She developed a condition called hydrocephalus, which caused increased fluid around her brain and severe swelling of her head.
The baby didn't improve. Her eyes almost became fixed. So then immediately the doctor said this baby needs an operation to get cured.
The family had to scrape together a massive $150 loan for further treatment and the operation at a specialist hospital.
At the same moment, an emergency accident came in, so the doctors said they could not operate on our daughter. And they said, okay, we'll do it next morning. But on the same day at 5 p.m., Shuli died.
I spoke to one of the doctors and said, I'm ready to sell my blood. I'm even ready to sell one of my kidneys. If only I could save my daughter. And now I have no daughter. I have so much pain, so much of the loan to repay.
Shuli's father earns $20 a month as a rickshaw driver. Half goes on rent, and the rest is not enough to pay the interest on their loan. Their debt is out of control, but it is the memory of their child that is the hardest to bear.
She was very playful, and every time she was calling Mama. If she was alive now, she would be bigger. She would be more playful by this age. We would buy her lots of things.
The sad truth is that Fatima's daughter's death was preventable. A vaccine against Hib is an established part of immunization programs in the developed world. Thousands of miles away from Dakar, across Asia and into the continent of Africa, a vaccination trial has offered a new glimmer of hope for the developing world. Banjul, the sunny capital of the West African tourist hotspot, the Gambia. Just a short distance from the sea and the surf, in a city suburb, is another life destroyed by Hib. 18-year-old Matty contracted meningitis caused by Hib at the age of 16 months. It has left her permanently brain damaged.
Well, I thought I was going to lose her. Definitely. Even the doctors gave her only a 10% chance. It was very serious then, you know. Doctors all said it was a miracle when she recovered. She has a brain damage. You can see that she doesn't say anything sensible. She doesn't even know what she says. I can't allow her to go to school because she falls, and I'm sure she wouldn't have that care that we would have for her when she's in school. She has to have help from the mother or the sisters when she's in the toilet because she cannot use her right hand. When she has a shower, things like that, she needs help. Put on her dress and all those things. She can't do it on herself. She needs help. It hasn't been easy. She needs that 24-hour care.
But the Gambia also offers hope for the fight against Hib in the developing world. Matty contracted it in 1988, long before the introduction of a vaccination program that has produced some startling results. In 1993, the Medical Research Council decided to test a vaccine already in use in the developed world.
Hib meningitis was a major problem in the Gambia. We knew there was a vaccine available that has been evaluated in the US and the UK and was being used to prevent meningitis, Hib meningitis in children. And we wanted to make sure that that would be the case if it was used in the Gambia.
The team targeted children under the age of 1, those most at risk from Hib. 3 doses were given at 2, 3 and 4 months old.
We vaccinated over 42,000 children. The result was fantastic. We had 100% protection against pneumonia, and for other Hib disease, including meningitis, we had 95% protection.
These first results showed a decline of 90% in Hib meningitis cases and by a fifth in serious pneumonia. In 1997, with this success under their belts, Dr. Richard Adikbola and the Medical Research Council, together with the Gambian government, began research to see whether these promising results could be repeated across the whole country. Could the vaccine wipe out Hib? The Gambia would become the first African country to introduce the Hib vaccine to its national immunization program.
What we did essentially was to set up a surveillance system targeted at meningitis. The idea was to make sure that we capture every child that could have meningitis. Then we set the apparatus in place to make sure that there was accurate documentation of every child presenting within a period of 5 years with Hib disease in the western region of the Gambia.
By the end of the trial in 2002, the research team were astounded by their findings.
As you can see, this graph illustrated the dramatic result that we got from this study. The incidence used to be over 200 cases per 100,000 children per year. And as we move in to the years where the vaccine was being used routinely, by the end of the study in 2002, the incidence has dropped to 0. The result was dramatic. It was really amazing.
But the program had not gone as smoothly as expected. Only 70% of the targeted children were immunized. Vaccine supply was erratic and there were delays in getting supplies to the clinics on time.
Although this was of a concern to us that the children were not getting vaccinated at the time that we had proposed to vaccinate them, despite these major concerns, we find at the end of the day that the vaccine was still as effective as we could have imagined.
The number of Gambian children under 2 carrying the infectious Hib bacteria dropped from 12 to half of 1%. This lowered the risk of contracting Hib for all children in the community.
The children that were too young to be vaccinated, there was a reduction in the number of those children with regards to cases. And the reason for that is that they were not exposed to the organism moving in the environment.
Paediatricians across the Gambia, like Dr. Onike Rodriguez from Banjul's Royal Victoria Hospital, have seen firsthand the success of the Hib vaccine.
There used to be a lot of cases of meningitis, including Hib meningitis. But this year we have not seen any cases of Hib meningitis at all. So I think it has had a significant impact. Also pneumonia cases in young children. Although we are still seeing pneumonia, we are not seeing the very bad bacterial pneumonias that we used to see in the very young children before the immunization program started.
But back at the Dhaka Shishu Hospital in Bangladesh, there was no Hib vaccine available to prevent baby Lima's meningitis. Her condition has become more serious overnight.
Lima now has developed a respiratory distress due to secondary infection in the lungs as a complication of Hib meningitis. Now she is getting oxygen therapy. Her chance of survival is 50-50.
The Hib vaccine is available in Bangladesh, but at a price. At around $10 a dose, it's out of reach of most pockets. Here, in a late-night fee-paying clinic, Mehbooba and Ahmed Jalaluddin bring their 9-month-old daughter Faiza in for a checkup.
Hello, how are you doing?
Her parents are both medics, with a monthly income of $600 between them, and they can afford the high price they pay for their daughter's immunization.
We have given our child Hib vaccine because it will protect her from Hib pneumonia and Hib meningitis. But we have to buy it and it is very costly. We are lucky to have this because we can afford it, but most of our people in our country cannot afford it.
Dr. Shaha's dream is to make a vaccine available for all children in Bangladesh.
I get so frustrated because my child and anybody like me of this socioeconomic status has got this vaccine, but these children are not protected only because of money.
And there's another issue that's denying children access to the vaccine.
We are eligible to apply for international funding. So if we can really prove that Hib is a burden through our research, then our policymakers can go to those international donor agencies to get the vaccine for our national immunization program and to save the poor children of this country from Hib infections.
And that's the catch. Misdiagnosis and underreporting are so widespread that many developing countries don't know or can't prove that they need help. In the Gambia, money for the Hib vaccination program has been provided not by the government, but by international donors such as Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. Soon, this funding is up for review.
It would be unthinkable that the vaccination will be discontinued after observing these results. And we expect that those countries that are not using the vaccine now will be encouraged by this data to introduce the vaccine in their countries so that Hib disease may be eliminated from most of the developing countries.
As expensive as it is still cheaper for a child to be immunized against the disease than for the child to have the disease and come to hospital and perhaps die from it. I think the provision of the vaccine is something that we cannot afford not to afford.
75% of the world's children don't have access to immunization against Hib. For the vaccine, success should breed success. The bigger the take-up, the lower the price, and the more countries will want to benefit. And vaccination has been so successful in the Gambia that Hib has been virtually eliminated from the country. The hope is that as the news spreads, other developing countries can follow this success, making the disease and disability brought by Hib a thing of the past.